What's good, gamers? My name is Dr. Ryan PsychSensei here. What I like to do on this show is I like to read articles, disseminate information, and look for those small little nuggets that can help you get to your next level. I found this really cool article. I'm really excited to see how they were able to use statistics to look at these behaviors and what that could mean for you as a player. And also, I like to practice the Pomodoro technique. It's a very simple time management technique. All you need to do is pick a task, set a goal, and then after that, it's a full go on that thing until the timer goes ding. When my timer goes up, I'll take a stretch, give you some hot takes on what I'm reading about, and then after that, I'll try to do another Pomodoro. Shall we just make this transition and hit it? Today's article, Entangled with Numbers, Quantified Self and Others in a Team-Based Online Game. This article was done in 2018, so pretty recent. I'm just really excited to see how they use statistics in this thing. So they want to optimize human behavior and the social process. What mediates virtual teamwork in League of Legends? They looked at rich statistics about each individual's player's gaming history and performance. They're going to describe how players were entangled with numbers, how they use numbers to quantify teammates and opponents, but in-game tensions and conflicts easily ensued. Like, how are you using your numbers? Because League is super analyzed. There's literally people called analysts that look at numbers to see statistically how this team should win, what is our best chances of success. And I do agree that numbers do tell a piece of the story, but if used improperly, numbers aren't able to tell you the full story. That's where a lot of problems do arise, is when people go, oh, according to this theory or according to these numbers, we should be mopping right now, but we're not. How come? I hope this article gives us a little insight into why depending only on numbers and seeing the game through numbers can sometimes be detrimental. I'm not saying that numbers aren't valuable, because they definitely are, and they do give you a nice piece of information or a nice piece of insight. When used improperly, numbers can be misleading. They noticed how quantification became burdensome and stressed the importance of proper use. Case of quantified self and others manifest complex relationships between self-knowledge, numerical authority, and virtual teamwork. Why they're studying League of Legends is because this focus on virtual teams or graphically distributed teams. What this quantified self really reminds me of, the greatest hack, when they're talked about Facebook and what data we put out there for free. So this quantified self, and linking the greatest hack with the social dilemma. If something is free, you are the product. Even Google Mail, it's free and you're using it for free, but at what cost? I'm sure they're mining some type of data from you. I'm really interested about the quantified self in League. I'm sure if you go scrape all your data, you're going to get a nice picture of who you are and what you like to do, and glean some type of attributes from the champions you like, the champions you win with, the champions you suck with, the champions that you ban. I'm sure that there will be some type of digital you by the way that you play this game. They're saying that the quantified thing of teams isn't really there, but right now what you could do is study League of Legends and have a quantification structure and relationships between people and League, and even the relationships between champions. It'd be kind of an interesting personality test, I think. Not a personality test, but like a personality thing. Thing is what I'll stick with. So there's so many APIs. Players can use these quantification tools to closely monitor their own as well as their teammates' numerous gameplay aspects, such as gaming history and in-game performance. This is what they did in the study. They used observation, collection analysis of player online discussion, and semi-structured interviews. Quantification also intensified virtual work as players frequently quantified and passed judgments on others, including teammates and opponents. True, happens all the time. It's good that there's a quantification system like ELO and like ranks. I think these are all good. At the same time, I think there's a fallacy when players are trying to compete at a certain level. I mean, this is barring like challenger players or pro teams to a certain extent, where say you have a gold or diamond or plat team, or even like master grandmaster team. You have an idea of what that means. Like, oh, this player is going to be quote good or competitive. But at the same time, I guess the question would be, how often when you go into these games, are you playing or drafting against players? Or are you playing and drafting against the meta or the quote perfect player in this champion? I think when people pick up players and pick up team comps, what they're really thinking about is like, if this champion was played perfectly, then it would be going this way. But I think what people forget is that like, even if an enemy team picks a champion that's really, really strong, if they're unable to pilot that champion, it's not going to make a difference. Or even theoretically, if they draft a really strong X team comp, but they aren't able to actually execute it doesn't really matter. I think there is a miss in most players' heads where they are thinking this champion is going to beat us because X, Y, and Z versus, oh, this player is going to beat us X, Y, and Z using this champion. Quantification has become an integral gameplay component. However, the interpretation of numbers was inherently flexible, relying heavily upon players' situated knowledge of the game and the community. Quantification also intensified virtual work as players frequently quantified and passed judgment on others, including teammates and opponents. Players also experienced stress and anxiety associated with the perceived misuse of quantification. In this article, they're going to discuss the complex relationship between quantification, self-knowledge, and virtual teamwork. If this is true, which I think it is, I really wonder how it would be for teams to just look at people's OP.GGs without names or without ranks and just see the champions that they played and then make a opinion or idea of this team instead of looking at first. Because I often think that they look at their opponent's ranks or past rank and really try to make an opinion off of them that way and then look at their champ pool. Or they've heard the name before and they get kind of scared. I don't think in traditional sports, say if you're going to go up against a pro team, you know that, oh, X player is rated a 10 or an S plus or like an A or just a C or garbage. I don't think there's a tier list for players. I think there might be a tier list for teams, or maybe like ESPN has a tier list. At the same time, in traditional sports, you're not really competing on a ladder to say how good you are individually. There may be an arbitrary list somewhere that somebody makes, but there's not like a, oh, today I'm going to go to the basketball court and play against these players and I'm going to see this board and try to move up against these players in a pickup game. There's nothing like that. But I think in esports, there totally is. And then here's the thing too. Esports also trains you that there is an inherent value of where you are in a certain level, or if you have a certain elo, or there is a certain value that Riot prescribes you. And I think that gets really ingrained in people's heads that if I'm a gold, then I'm only this good. Right when I get to the next level, then I'm going to be this good. I really think that sometimes the elo system has gotten ingrained in people's heads so much that it means more than maybe it should. Or at the same time, it warps people's perception about what it means to be X good. I think that's just so interesting that MMR is the mechanism that dictates skill, but yeah, you're never able to really see it or understand exactly how it works. It's so crazy how many third-party websites there are to scrape data. OP.GG. So crazy. That's for free, and it just has a fat database of people's statistics going through quantification. Here's your definition of quantification. Quantification is a constructive feature of modern science and social organization. Self-quantification, to develop knowledge about the self. Who would have thought? You could develop self-knowledge through self-examination with respect to thoughts in correspondence to reality, the way our thoughts related to rules and relation between the hidden thoughts and the inner impurity. Basically, what you're talking about is awareness. I wish I was more complicated than that, but really, when you talk about self-quantification, what you're really doing is you're becoming aware of yourself and what you do, what you like, what you don't like, where you are, where you're going, why you think the things, your values. That's all it really is awareness. And once you know that, I guess you quantify or measure or look at it, observe. Talking awareness. In personal informatics, dang, big words. Small things. Individuals collect, analyze, and reflect on many types of personal information, such as bank statements, email history, and health information. You know, when I think about statistics and things like that, you know what's more important than just finding the numbers or just looking at the statistics is, what are you looking for? What are you finding as valuable? And more importantly, why are you looking for this thing? And how are you going to use this number? You can literally do anything with statistics. Advertising is your prime example. 4 out of 5 doctors recommend this brand of chewing gum, or 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this toothpaste. That's a statistic. That's just a number that quantifies something. But really, when you go through this process of looking at Mobalytics statistics or OP.GG statistics, like what statistics are you looking at as valuable? Or what statistic are you trying to look for to find the edge on your opponent? And what are you looking for or deeming as important, meaningful, valuable? All the information is there, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's dumb. And I think that's the point that they're trying to make. But here's the thing. If the research question isn't good, or if the research question isn't really valid or is kind of off, guess what? So all your statistics, and it doesn't matter. So if that's true, I'm going to extend this to games. What are your measurements of success? What are the things that you're looking for that are meaningful, and why are you looking for those things, and how are you going to use this information? And then from there, you find the statistic that matches that thing. But if you just look at the statistics that people have mined for you, that these third parties have just given to you, and you're like, oh, stats, numbers, yay, good. This means I'm going to do this. Incorrect. You're not going to go very far because you haven't really set up the thought experiment for yourself. You don't have a good hypothesis to test, and then when you get the numbers, they're just pretty numbers. Do pro LOL teams have people that interpret stats? I'm sure they have a great stats team. I know some really good analysts that can look at the numbers, and then from the numbers, they can really think about how the team will draft or respond, or what champions they're going to like to pick, or what champions X player likes to pick and their success rate on that thing. They can probably look at CS and see who's really good at CSing, who needs to get ahead to be effective, who plays better from behind, who can recover. So I'm sure that there's a lot of analysts out there that use a lot of different stats, but at the same time, I'm sure when pro analysts go through their numbers, they're looking for something specific, or they're putting together the numbers to make a meaningful story so they can form a strategy around it or have a counter strategy towards another team's play. But again, if you don't have good research questions or understand why you're using specific stats, it's all doo-doo, baby. So that was my 5-minute timer. I'm gonna go stretch. I for sure know that pro teams have people that do stats and do crazy things with their stats. Again, that's all with a purpose, and they all have a reason for the stat that they're using. But if I was going to extend this to your life, or my gamers' lives, or my players' lives, really the question again that I always love to ask is, what is your metric of success? Or where are you spending your time, and how do you want to succeed? Because if people say I want to be the best player out there, what does that mean to you, being the best player out there? What is your metric of success, being the best player? Or this statistic is really significant because X, Y, and Z, or I think this is really interesting, but why? Going that step further of how are you going to use this thing, this stat, this idea to your advantage, then how are you going to track it with numbers? If you think about it, this is the whole crux of a SMART goal. What a SMART goal does is it tells you to be specific, use numbers, have a deadline with a time, be related to the thing that you're trying to accomplish, make it be measurable so you actually see progress. And oftentimes what you want to do with SMART goals or goals in general is you want to quantify them through a number. Even if it's something arbitrary like a feeling, you try to use a number like a Likert scale. So for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you today? 10 being elated, super duper happy, or 1 being like the worst day ever, not happy at all. And from these numbers, even though it's an arbitrary number that you've just made up, it just still gives you a point to start measuring things. The really easy one is CS score. Now, how good are you at last hitting minions? Because really that's the basics of League, and you need to have a nice gold economy to do anything. So how is your gold economy or your CS score improving or decreasing? So that's a small goal. So maybe you're just starting, and my average CS score, I want it to be like, I don't know, 4, 3, 3.5. For the first 15 minutes, I want my CS average to be 3.5, or at the end of every game, I want it to be 3.5. Then let's see, how many games are you able to maintain this 3.5? Say you do 2 out of 3 games. That means I'm getting better at my CS score. If I'm doing 2 out of 3 times at 3.5 a game, let me increase it to like 4. How many times can I get it at 4? And say you get 1 out of 3. Now I have to go back and really look at what I'm doing in my lane. I really have to look at what champions I'm picking, my pathing, seeing what I'm really doing wrong to get 3.8 instead of 4 on average. After you consistently start getting 4, then we can get it higher. 4.5, 4.2, whatever your next goal is. But see how we're quantifying that finish line for us. Time could also be a unit of measurement. For example, I'm going to spend 2 hours editing videos today. That's my goal. So time is a good one. Emotions are hard because, again, you'd have to use something arbitrary like a Likert scale because no one else is going to know what that feeling feels like except you, because feelings are internal. Maybe it's number of behaviors. I'm only going to hit my computer 2 times a day instead of 4. That's a good goal if you tilt. All of these things and using good metrics, but at the same time always asking yourself, what are you measuring? What is your metric of success? And what is your goal? Then from there, all the stats should fall into place. At the same time, at the heart of all like statistics, you have to realize that it's only as accurate as your question. And just because you're getting stats, it's just a piece of the puzzle, and that's not the end all be all. So again, it goes along with correlation does not make causation. So if you do see a relationship between a couple of things, if just because you see that in the numbers and it's significant, that doesn't always mean that it's true. 3.2, trust and collaborative traces in virtual teamwork. To foster trust, a rising body of CSCW often focused on mechanisms to support collaborative work that monitor another's work status and history. So tracing history or progress on a project helped distributive teams build trust with each other, because I guess if I can see that you're working and I can see what you're working on, I'm more likely to trust that you're actually working on something. You know, this makes a lot of sense. In teams that are distributed, that aren't there, that can see each other work, the best thing that teams could do to help build trust trust between each other is actually show them that you're doing the work, that you're putting in the time. This tracking online of I was able to do this. So I'm thinking about, even for my team, we're going to do logs, a piece of something that people have to fill out after they do X thing to show the other people on the team that I'm putting in work and time. Besides just playing games, seeing your op.gg and seeing that you've played like 80 games. I mean, that's saying something. That's great that you're putting in time and playing the games. At the same time, for a more competitive team, outside quote homework of playing games would be more importantly detailing what you were trying to do in that game. Oh, I was just XDing with my friends. I was just having fun. Oh, I was really working on my CS here because I know that's a problem with our team. In this one, I was dueling with our jungle because I know that our synergy is bad, and this is what I learned about working with the jungler. Really having this history of what you're working on to show your fellow teammates, it's going to be invaluable for sure, because if there's a clear log and it's clear something that someone's putting in work, that means I should be putting in work too, because to be part of this team, I want to put in the same amount of work. Accountability, I think that's where we're going. Accountability or transparency that builds trust. All right, 3.3, participatory surveillance in online games. Nailed it. LOL can be analyzed from the lens of surveillance games, which is defined as ones that use data processing technologies to provide or enhance entertainment, thereby appropriating surveillance devices for their own hedonistic purposes. I don't know how I feel about surveillance, but that is exactly what's happening. Putting together the idea of participatory, playful surveillance and that of blurring boundary of work and play, we observe a tension between the pleasurable and the serious, work-like framings of self-monitoring self and teammates, stressing the importance of willingness to participate in surveillance. Whitson noted that, quote, the moment you understand that you are working, you are not playing. But for it to be experienced as play, everyone needs to be a willing participant. So the difference between work and play. And I think that's sometimes the challenge in esport athletes is oftentimes it may have started off as play, where this thing was really, really fun and I enjoyed it. But at a certain point, if you really want to get good, if you really want to become pro, if you really want to be a champion, if you really want to be an elite level esport athlete, that thing that you used to love now becomes a job, because you have to dedicate yourself to really put in the time, really look at it differently, really grow in that aspect of loving either winning, loving the challenge, loving competition, so that love of the game changes from just pure enjoyment to something deeper inside of you, something connected to your values. And I think for some players, that's a really big jump, or especially those players that started playing League or their game because it was an escape. Oh, they're really good at it. They would just go in and play this game for fun. But then at a certain point, they may have gotten so good, now it becomes an opportunity for them to make a living off of this game. And then how do you make that transition, or how do you make that jump? I think it's really difficult for players, I'd even roll the dice and say most players, to make that leap of this game was something for fun that I enjoyed to now it's a full-time job, or it's no longer as enjoyable because I'm thinking about it more and I'm seeing it at a deeper level and I'm doing it all the time. It's no longer an escape, it's no longer for fun, but now it's really something more intense. For some athletes, making that leap and that reframe in their mind is more challenging. I think that's fair. Sometimes it's hard to make that leap. But at the same time, if you want to reach the elite level, that leap must be made somehow. So you're able to persist when you don't want to play, you're able to practice, you don't burn yourself out. What I'm really thinking it comes down to is, instead of having the game as something fun, because if I think about fun is attached to an emotion, and emotions don't last very long. For example, fun and enjoyment is a nanosecond, a millisecond that you experience it. But the reason why you can experience it for longer is because we ruminate on that feeling and we think about how fun this thing is and how much time we're enjoying this thing and how great it is, and we just go around that feeling. And because we're going around that feeling, the feeling lasts longer. Same thing happens with bad things or negative things. That bad or negative feeling really only lasts this long and then it goes away. But it's that rumination of how terrible it is, how stupid I looked, what this is going to mean for my future, and how dumb I am, or how this thing is the worst thing in the world, and I'm going to go round and round and round. That feeling lasts longer. Instead of attaching things to like fun, happiness, if you really want to persist in something, what you're going to need to attach it to is something deeper, a value, a commitment. those deeper internal things inside of you. I think those things will last longer because one, they're internal. Two, it's a value that's inside of you that you're trying to live your life to. So if you attach it to that compass, it's always going to be around and you're always going to do those things because it's all connected inside. I mean, we can get into external and internal motivation, but at the same time, I'm really thinking if you want to do something for a really long time, that you attach it something deeper, a core value, a set of morals, something. So you can always follow that no matter what. If it's a pro player and you started off as fun, but now it's not fun anymore, what else can we attach it to? Can we attach it to commitment? Can we attach it to team, family? I don't want to do this, but for my team, my family, that's bigger than me, so I'm going to do this. I made a commitment, and when I make a commitment, I always follow through. I want to be the best at something, and I know if I want to be the best, then I have to do these types of things. Once we're able to make it deeper, it's going to last a little bit longer. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys got some nuggies out of here. I'm really interested to continue reading this article, look at what statistics they looked at, how those statistics affected people or behaviors. What I'm really interested in is this surveillance and how people are basically leaving a digital footprint on League of Legends online and how people are looking at people's footprints and measuring them and comparing them to themselves. So I'm really excited about this still, even though we got to the setup of this article. Tomorrow's gonna be a very interesting day when we finish it for sure. Thanks for coming to hang out, but until I see you again, my name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, your PsychSensei, teaching you how to think, play, and slay one game, one article, one thought at a time. All right, friends, you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you mañana. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.